Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation. My name is Simon Chavez and I'm going to be presenting to you today on the topic of mass media's impact on sexuality of adolescents. Before we move on, I'd like to just tell you what my specific purpose was. I'm going to answer the following two questions. The first is, what does mass media teach adolescents about sex? The second question will be, how does this affect their sexuality? First, we need to define, before we move on into this, what is the purpose of mass media? First, mass media is just what we consider the mainstream media. All of us have seen this, all of us have read this, and some point or another have come into contact with it. It is television, magazines, newspapers, movies, radio, music, and of course, the internet. The purpose of mass media is to take large amounts of information and to distribute it to as many people as possible. The next thing we also need to do is give the definition, what is an adolescent? Jane Brown, in her study conducted that she completed, Mass Media Influences on Sexuality, and also Gerber and Grube, Adolescent Sexuality in the Media, a review of current knowledge and implications, they defined an adolescent as a 15 to 17-year-old in the United States. So when we are referring to the term adolescent, this is how they would define it in their studies. Some of the things we need to take into consideration, Gerber and Grube first discussed about how adolescents in this group may be particularly at risk because the cognitive skills they allow them to critically analyze messages from the media and to make decisions based on possible future outcomes are not fully developed. They do not fully understand what it is that they are viewing. Jane Brown in hers also talked about the same thing. She said that an adolescent at this point in his or her life, where they are learning about themselves. They learn what they like, what they don't like, and they are shaping their gender roles, sexual attitudes, and sexual behaviors. This is why both of these authors, all of them, conducted the research that they did. Some of the studies that they looked at was, of course, the cultivation theory. This is a very popular theory, especially in violence and the media, but both of these researchers also discuss how this can also be applied to developing of sexuality. Cultivation theory was developed by Professor George Gerbner. He was the dean of Annenberg School of Communication. This is located at the University of Pennsylvania. Basically, what this theory explains is that media, especially something like television, is responsible for shaping viewers' conceptions of social reality. So it basically stating that what they see on television becomes their reality. They believe it and hold it to be true. Both of the studies talked about exposure. So exposure to media. Again, this includes television, radio, music, internet. The average adolescent every day spent to 6-7 hours being exposed to some form of media or another. Viewers see 143 incidents of sexual behavior. Some of these sexual behaviors that they viewed were between married couples, and some were unmarried couples. 60% of the music videos portrayed some sort of sexual feelings or impulses. This is defined as people wearing provocative clothing or making sexually suggestive body movements in the video. As a result, both of them concluded that teens who watch a lot of television with sexual content are more likely to initiate sexual intercourse in the following year. I found this chart from the Rand Health. They did a study on media influences on teen sexual. They concluded that depending on what age they were, the following year, a lot of them began to become sexually active. You can see the ages of the first survey, 12-year-olds 13 up to 17. If they had low TV exposure. Many of them did not initiate any sort of sexual intercourse the following year. But if they did have some sort of high TV exposure, that number went up. Other results was that frequent exposure to TV sexual content was associated with a significantly greater likelihood of teenage pregnancy in 3 years following the exposure. There was some good things that I would consider positive, was that many of them who saw this sexual content, they saw potential consequences of their sexual behavior. Those potential consequences was other things besides teenage pregnancy. Sexually transmitted diseases was another. They talked about the basic ones: gonorrhea, chlamydia. They even go up to as further as HIV and later on AIDS. So as you can see, I believe that there was some sort of positivity in this. At least they see that they need to be safe. A related study of the effects of the music found that heavy exposure to sexually degrading lyrics predicts accelerated initiation of sexual intercourse and other sexual activities. So they see it in the music, they hear it, they see it on the music video. It accelerated it. It becomes part of their reality. They assume that this must happen, and so then they mimic what they see. The conclusion that came out from this research was that mass media does have an impact on adolescent sexual behavior. Of course, there's always one thing that will always trump everything, and that is personality. A student's personality will overcome, culture, will come exposure and environment. So a lot of students who their personality is very strong will not fall victim to this. But as you can remember from the considerations of the beginning of the video, this is the time frame where these students are developing their personalities. This is what makes them highly, highly receptive to these exposure. And like I said, there was some sort of positive that came out of their research. There was raised awareness on condom usage. They would see things, and they would see the actors talk about condoms, safe sex, practicing safe sex in the videos. And so therefore, this adolescent will see how important it is for them as well, and will mimic this behavior. Here are the references that I used for my presentation. I would like to thank you now for watching my video. I hope you have learned something. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.